boys are munching. They got their bones. They're very happy. They're looking at me like, can't we have more? And I'm like, you have plenty. But welcome back. And sorry for the disappearance. I had a video I was trying to work on, and I was having so much trouble. And it wasn't even what I wanted to work on. It was just like, well, but I need to do this, but nothing would upload and nothing. So I was like, you know what? I didn't even want to do this to begin with. So I scrapped it when nothing, I couldn't get it up to Dropbox. I couldn't get it out of Dropbox. Once I finally got it up to Dropbox, all the troubles. I think I'm struggling with this idea here. So my laptop is only 3 years old and it's great. It normally works very, very well. I don't see any like bad cells or anything when I do my, wash it down, buddy. But you know, there's just nothing about it that seems wrong, except that there are things that aren't working. And I think what I might need to do is pull everything off and wipe the hard drive and reload everything again, reload Windows, do it all from scratch. But then I'm thinking, if I have to do that, should I just get a new one? My daughter needs a new laptop. Should I just get a new one, give this one to her after doing that? And then I'm going to have at least 5 more years. This one I know will go a couple more years. And the only reason that I'm even considering that option is that I have literally worn, you know how you can wear off the letters on your keyboard? Yeah, I haven't just worn off the letters so you can't read them anymore. It doesn't matter. I don't look at them anyway. I have actually worn through the plastic that covers the other plastic that covers the little lights in them, which I didn't realize they had lights until I wore through them on several. So my keyboard is really worn. And is it going to make 2 more years with my usage? I don't know. So I have to think about that. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I really don't want to buy a new laptop, but I also don't want to fight this one. I don't know. Anyway, so my idea for this video, now that everything seems to be working again, I've done some clearing out and trying all kinds of stuff, and I might have it set, we'll see. I thought I would do, you know, what I have read and explain this book slump that I went through and what I thought it was and what I discovered it wasn't and what I then discovered it actually was and all that stuff. But I think to make this entire video make any sense whatsoever, I actually need to go back to the beginning. So it actually started, I should have seen this coming. It actually started with the story of Rosabelle Shaw and all the problems I had with that, where I was like sort of enjoying the story. I was actually, you know, I liked the writing. I liked some of the characters. I liked some of the scenes. You know, there were things I liked about that book. And if it had had a different title, I would have liked a lot of it more. I will say that. But should have been titled The Shaws. If it had been titled The Shaws, that's the name of the house, and it's about the whole family, it would have worked better for me. But anyway, I have said all that I should ever say on that book. But it kicked off something for me. So then, you know, I listened to a couple of, like the Celluloid Century. Remember I talked about that, the Homefront Sleuths, and I had listened to a couple audios. And then I pulled up, the next one up was the Selected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 1. I had started the Kindle and just, I wasn't disliking it, but I wasn't reaching for it. I wasn't like dying to read the next chapter or hating to have to put it down. It was just there. And so I never went back to it unless, you know, I happened to be out and about and, you know, which is rare. I don't usually leave home, you know. But if I was out and about and I needed something to do at that point, I might pull it up and read. I think I made it 4 chapters into that thing at the most. Now, well, no, on Kindle, maybe 2. So I pulled it up on the audio thinking maybe audio is how I listened to this. The very first book that I really got into on audio was the Guernsey book. It was also epistolary. So I'm thinking maybe this is the solution. I've made it to chapter 4, and then something happened. I found that I didn't want to open my phone, which I tend to either listen on my laptop or on my phone or my Audible app. Basically, my phone is a camera and audiobook device. I don't text, I don't call, I don't do Facebook, Instagram. I will look at Instagram on it sometimes if I'm going to have to do something and, you know, upload directly from my phone. But usually if I'm going to be interacting or anything, I'm doing it on the laptop because I have a keyboard. This thing is not me. I don't do the thumb dance. It's just not me. So, you know, with all that said, I got to the point where I didn't even want to look at my phone, and I didn't realize that this was the thing. So, what did I do? Did I go sit in my chair, turn on my lamp, and start reading my physical books? No, I did not. I opened my laptop. I put on Krista Del Sorbo reading my books to me, and I plowed through the entire Independence Islands, Swamele Islands, and the 3 Bookstrings books before I figured out what was wrong. I was doing it to avoid getting back on the audio, and for some reason, because I was avoiding the audio, it made me not want to pick up an actual physical book. And I was like, oh my gravy, because I could tell this is definitely some sort of reading slump, but I am reading in the sense that I'm listening to my books and finding things I didn't even realize I'd written. There were some good lines in some of those. I was like, wow, Lord, you did good there, because that could not have been me. That was funny because, you know, it feels weird to admit that I sat there and plowed through 10, 11 of my own books. Yeah, it was a thing, guys. It was a thing. And then this week I listened to the first 7 chapters of My Soul Tales, which Krista is getting back to. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, that's when it hit me that I needed to chuck the M&M line for a bit. Everybody keeps telling me that the first isn't the best and that I will get into it in the second, but that I should read the first. That's what I keep hearing. I have to do it at some point, but not while I'm already fighting things. And I think it might be worse right now because I did come off of the Rosabelle Shaw. Maybe that's part of it. But I finally said, forget this. And I pulled up Silver and the Wedding Veils. It is the 4th, I think. Silver and the Sunday Cipher. Silver and the Moonlight something. Silver. Yeah, I think this is the 4th. And boy, guys, were there some fun stuff in it. Now, this something happened this time. I think Chris had asked if there was foul language in them. And I got quite a ways into it, I think, before someone used God's name irreverently. And I was like, really? Okay. I didn't remember if this was a thing before, but, I was hoping that I kind of thought there might have been a word here or there, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, there was a word, totally irreverent and flippant. It wasn't, if you've seen While You Were Sleeping, and she gets on the tracks and she uses God's name in a way that could be perceived as irreverent. When you consider that there's a train coming and she's got to try to save this guy and she throws this out there, she may not have meant it to be prayerful. That's assuming this is a real thing happening, right? She may not have meant it to be prayerful, but I really always consider that prayerful because she really does want help and she's asking for it, and people do this. So that one, as much as I generally don't like irreverent uses of God's name, that one doesn't bother me. This was nothing like that. Wasn't even close to what that scene could have been. It was more like, I'm annoyed. And so I'm going to throw this out there, right? So there was that. And then I started noticing that there's an awful lot of uses of the British epithet that doesn't mean much here, but it does over there. Yeah, that one. And then there was another B word thrown in a couple of times. And I was like, man, I felt like there was a lot more in it. So I was talking to a friend of mine who has also started them, and she agreed that there was more in this one than previously, particularly of the British epithet. That one. There was a lot more of that one. And I have a theory on this. This is my theory. These are, he calls them cozies. I don't. But Jack Catlin calls them cozies. And I think he also writes more thriller, suspense, kind of, a totally different, intense genre sort of thing. And so I wonder if he didn't come off of writing one of those before he jumped into book 4. And he still had that mindset. I mean, this is not Christian fiction, so I could see how this could happen. I don't know. It just seems weird that there was so much more in this one. It wasn't that there was so much more. I mean, I would still say there's less in this than you would find in Mrs. Halifax, but it's still there. And it was definitely more. It wasn't just in my head that it was more than the last one. It really was. Again, particularly the British one. So, but anyway, Silver and the Wedding Veils. In this one, Silver and Carlisle and her mother, Celia, and her grandson, I don't remember his name. For reasons that make no sense, I want to call him Ray, and I know that's not right. But anyway, and her grandson are someone that Celia, the mother-in-law, knew in the home office, in some sort of, government circles, comes to them and says, something is off with my son's wedding, and it's coming. I'm having to, serve as kind of the wedding coordinator. I've hired people. They've all quit. They say I'm too difficult to work with. She's too difficult to work with. But anyway, and so I need someone to come, pretend to be the wedding planner. Somebody else left everything that we possibly need. We don't need another one. So you just have to follow the script, but I want you to watch because something's off, and she explains why something's off. And there's all this backstory of a tragedy in the past, and things seem to be happening, and then someone dies. And, they have to work it out. Now, I figured out right away who it was and was so sure that I was wrong, because this was one of, should I say this? If you're going to read these books, this could be a massive spoiler. I'm not giving names or anything. I'm not doing that. But this could be, depending on if you remember me saying this, a massive spoiler. So zip ahead about a minute or so. But I thought I was wrong because it was so obvious who it was. I was like, I can't be right, but I can't see why it's anyone else. I couldn't find proof of anyone else. Nothing happened. It all boiled down to that person. And I finally just stuck with it because I couldn't find anyone else to suspect. And I just waited for me to be wrong. And I wasn't wrong. Now, I was incomplete, but I wasn't wrong. And in this one, what's really cool is if you know the series, me saying this is going to go, what? Wait. If you don't know the series, this isn't going to mean much, but when Silver gets to this place and people start arriving, part of this group getting, that's part of the group around the bride getting married, knows Silver. And that's really strange. And yes, I do have my fan on. The dog just went to make sure it was still working. He's like, what? It's getting warm in here. It's 79 out there, guys, and it's 2 a.m. So I'm just saying, it's what it is. But so anyway, there are so many elements to this one, but on top of all the mystery elements that were really great, I really do love these mysteries. On top of that, Silver started figuring out some things and started seeing some people that are making things click and making things look really intense. So I'm expecting really super cool things in the next one. And one of the things that was really interesting is getting to see her grandson, Carlisle's grandson. My brain is like freezing at her name, but anyway, her grandson, he's always had his strong points and his elements that he brings to the table that they need. I mean, they all have their own strengths, right? But he really stepped it up in this one in really cool ways. It was really neat. I had a blast with it. Really loved it. If I were British, it would probably bother me. But since I'm not, and since that has zero meaning to me in American culture, it just doesn't. It doesn't bother me. What bothered me more than anything was, I think it's once or twice, an irreverent use of God's name, and then there were a couple of, instead of gender reassignment, they had genus reassignments. It's the only way I can put it. Yeah, it wasn't lovely. But it again, it's not tons. It's just that I was really hoping I was wrong with this was one of the ones that had them, and I wasn't. So once I read that, everything started clicking. Then I talked to Becca Kinzer on the podcast, and she just had a book come out. I think it was in April. Not What We Pictured. And Becca Kinzer, she's the one who did, so on the podcast, I'm talking about the book, and I started to say, Dear Henry, Uncle Edith. And I just started to do it again. It's Dear Henry, Love Edith. She writes slapstick in a way that isn't annoying. It isn't Laurel and Hardy. It is, I don't know what she does that makes it different. It's over the top, and yet it works anyway. And so she has this character. I can't remember the woman's name. I can't remember characters' names. What we have is a woman who had to raise her little sister from the time she was 18 and their mother died. She had been adopted, then her mother had gotten married, and she and her new husband had eventually had a child, and then, you know, he died, she died. So she's raised this sister from, 10 years old, and so she's put her entire life on hold. And now her little sister's boyfriend wants to propose. Every time he tries to propose, something terrible goes wrong, and she can tell that he's starting to get this crazy idea that, well, it's not meant to be. And so she's concerned that if he doesn't propose, then all the plans that she has slowly been building when she knew this proposal was going to happen are going to die. She has a chance at a job in LA and all these things, and she's so excited. So she gets it all set up where they're going to go. He's going to take her on a walk past the bench where he and her little sister had their first kiss. It's going to be great. And when she gets there to hide the ring for him at the bench, there's a guy on it. He's asleep. She keeps thinking she keeps talking about him like he's either asleep or a dead body. I mean, she keeps saying it over and over and over. It's one of those things where it shouldn't have worked to repeat things as much as she did, but somehow it became part of her personality, right? And so she bungles everything. It all goes wrong, and in the middle of everything going wrong, it was really bad. She slips the ring into the guy's cargo pants and zips it up so that nothing can happen to it. That's before he gets taken in an ambulance. I'm just saying. Now she's, got to go find this guy and get that ring back. And so she ends up in Tennessee. They're in Nebraska when this all starts. She ends up in Tennessee. She ends up at his mother's bed and breakfast. And she's there to get the ring. And he's like, I don't have it. And she's freaking out. He doesn't have it because his carry-on luggage had been checked at the door because there wasn't room for it. And they lost it. And so now this $20,000 ring is stuck in a suitcase somewhere. And she's just waiting for it to come back. Everybody's slipping out. The guy is thinking maybe this isn't supposed to work. Maybe I should go to, Germany anyway. And we're just not meant to be. And I mean, there's that whole meant to be thing kept bugging me because I'm like, where's God in this? But okay. all right, we can just back up, you know. But it's not like there is no faith in this book. I don't want to say that, but that guy, his mentality, I'm thinking maybe you're not ready to get married. Maybe you really just need to work on a little bit of, I don't know, talking to God and knowing what He says in His Word and making choices based on that rather than, oh, things aren't working out, so therefore I shouldn't do this. That was his pearl great price, maybe. Anyway, just saying, just putting it out there. So it was just this crazy loony audiobook that I listened to, and it like jump started me. I immediately went into her next one, and again, it's a rom-com. Immediately went into her next one, which actually came out before this, and that was A Very Merry Matchup. It's a Christmas novella, obviously, and in this one we have, I think is her name Lauren, I think. Yeah, I think. Anyway, she's a traveling nurse, and at one point she was helping with a guy who had been in an accident, broken his leg. He's a baseball minor league player, and you had his mother really wanting to set them up. You have him who is really interested, and she is absolutely not. She has a lot of insecurities and fears, and I would say that Becca Kinzer really writes to this. She sees what people get wrong in their heads and how they fixate on this wrong thing, and she just like pushes and pokes at it until they have to lay it on the line and hand it over to God and start dealing with things. And it usually takes the whole book to get them there, but they finally get there, and that's realistic, and that's, you know, and with a whole lot of, if everything could go wrong, they do. So like go back to the other book. I should not find this funny, but one of the very first things that she does is while trying to wake him up, she slips, face plants into his armpit. And then at one other point where she's trying to tell if he's breathing, her lips touch his. So then she's talking about this. It was not a kiss. It was a lip bump. It is so funny. I'm over here cracking up over kisses. I don't do this. You know, I'm the one that's like, oh, here it comes. And I flip the page so I can get back to the story. Because I really don't care what you guys do with your lips. I don't want to read it. You know, but she made it funny, and she made it. And because of their like, it wasn't really a loathe to love as much as it was bad first impressions that they don't want, neither one of them want to get past. They just want to get the situation gone. So it wasn't really that loath to love thing as much as the other. But anyway, fast forward over this other one. It is night and day. She has these insecurities. Lauren does, the nurse. Her father was in sports. Her mother was a surgeon, I think. And they ended up splitting up over the fact that he was never around, and you know, everything. It was very traumatic for her as a kid. So she has a plan, and she's not even going to look for someone until she's 30. She's going to keep this traveling nurse gig going, and then she's going to marry some guy. She's going to become a school nurse. She's going to marry a teacher. It's not a guy. It has to be a teacher so they can have the same months off. She's just determined to create a very wholesome family unit. And this whole situation, she's a matchmaker. She tried to match her friend up with this guy, and instead her friend turns the tables, and it's the whole thing playing out, just seeing that, you know, we plan our ways, but the Lord directs our steps kind of thing. It's that verse played out as comedically as humanly possible. And I don't usually talk about guys being swoony because well, for one thing, the swoon just isn't my thing. But I have to say, if you like a swoony guy, I'm going to say this guy is probably him. I was impressed by him. I was impressed by how much he was willing to put out there to make something fit whatever it took. And it was beautiful. It was funny as anything, but it was beautiful. And I really loved it. So I'm about to start First Love, Second Draft. by her, but I decided to listen to a mystery in the middle because did you see what I did a minute ago where I was like, wait, is that? Yeah. So I don't want to like blur them all together, even though they're standalones. I was like, nah, I don't want to blur them. So I'm going to listen to a mystery in between there, and it's a whole new series, so I can't get it blurred with anything. I decided I need like total mystery palette cleanser. So I read those. It just kicked me off. I was like, I had like 20 tabs open on Amazon going, which one of these? Okay, I'm gonna try that. Nope, that's got virtual voice. Chuck that. That one looks like that might work. Okay. And I was just going down the list, and after about 20 of them, I got it down to 5, and I pretty much just went eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And so I've got a gal, I think it's something at the Abbey, Death at the Abbey. And we've got a gal who's just moved to someplace in Cornwall, and her dog finds a body, and she's like 60 something, and they have a mahjong group, and one of the officers from the town that was at the body thing is in this mahjong group, and the other person in the mahjong group knows the person who died, and that's all I know. So I have no idea if I'm even going to like this, but I listened to enough of it that I didn't hear any language, and usually if it's going to have a lot, it'll show up in the first few chapters, so I'm thinking I'm good there. But I also finished another book, The Second Chance Trailer Park by Katie Powner. Guys, this book, it was, again, hilariously funny. This is not slapstick for the most part. This is just eccentric people of varying types all living together in one retirement trailer park. Okay, so Meredith in this one is 52 and a half. You have to be 54 and a half to move into, I think it's like Whispering Pines or something like that. You have to be 54 and a half. Basically, they went 55 and over, but they will let people have that window if there's a spot to slide in. Well, she lies and says she's 54 and a half and buys a trailer in the park from an older woman who's like 97 who has moved into a nursing home after a fall. And she inherits that woman's cat and all her stuff. Meanwhile, she's trying to sell her nice, neat, chic little house, and she has retired because the owner of the boutique she works for put a younger woman over her. She's been working there for all these years, and when they needed to promote someone, they should have promoted someone else, so she said, forget it. She broke up with her boyfriend, and she moved into here and didn't even tell her sister where she was living. She kept in contact, but she was not going to admit where she was living. And she's just, her idea is just hang out there until she really is the right age, right? And then everything will be smooth sailing. As long as no one figures out that she's actually younger, she's letting her hair go gray, she's letting herself wear elastic waistbands. I mean, the whole 9 yards. She's going to do this thing. And she's running from so many things that she doesn't realize she's running from. Then you have the neighbors. So you've got a neighbor to the right whose wife has died in the last year, mostly almost a full year ago at the beginning of this book. And he's missing her so much. At the same time, he lets his grandson move in, and they have to sneak him in. Grandson is 30, so we're not talking a little boy, but so the guy's son / grandson's father is kind of hard on the kid, and Grandpa thinks he's too hard, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You've got a couple that are, I would say, mentally delayed that live there with their cats, and they're a hoot. They are such a hoot. And then you have another couple who are just really quirky. They're funny, really quirky, but they love to like completely deck out stuff for every holiday. So you've got, you name it, and they have the decorations for it. They also have a pet tarantula. His name's Harry. The guy next door's name is also Harry. That brings some fun things in. And then on the other side of Meredith, you have Rowdy. His name is Rowdy. and he's an ex-pastor. And that's where things get really interesting in this book, because this is mainstream general market fiction. This is not a Christian publisher, and it doesn't pretend to be Christian fiction. It is women's fiction. However, Katie is a Christian, and it comes out. And they don't shy away from faith in here, which is really cool. I don't think Meredith is supposed to be a Christian. I think Meredith is supposed to have an encounter with someone who can share Jesus with her. And that's what we're supposed to get out of this, that there are genuine Christians out there who love the Lord and share him with others. And that's all we're supposed to get, because that's not the point of this book. It doesn't have the I don't want to say heavy, but the deeply layered faith layers that her other books get. It just has a realistic. This guy's a pastor, and he has a funny personality quirk of his own. Then you have the guy across the street, and he never leaves the house. And I mean, there are just so many people, and they're so fun, and all the things that can go wrong that do. Guys, there is a wedding in here. I've never laughed so hard in my life. It was the funniest thing. If you read this book only for the wedding, you won't regret it. It was awesome, but it was also, you know, women's fiction. You're going to grow and learn and change. And I love what she did with it. It's one of those things where my mind would have done something different, and I would have been wrong. So I'm really glad she did what she did with it. I really liked it, and I think I might be keeping this one. I don't always I can't keep every book, but this one I might be keeping, because it was pretty funny, and I can see myself reading it again. I suspect if I read it again, I will get even more out of it, which is pretty cool. So this and Silver and the Wedding Veils, these two are what really broke me out of that bizarre reading slump. So I finally, that just happened a couple of days ago, by the way. So I read, after I started Silver, I've read Silver, Not What We Pictured, A Very Merry Matchup, The Second Chance Trailer Park, four books in less than 5 days. Probably 4 books in 4 days. I mean, it was just like boom, 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 boom. Then I picked The Color of Home back up. It's really funny. I know I'm saying home, but sometimes I have to like slow it really down on the video, because it sounds like I'm saying hope. And I'm not saying hope. But it sounds like it until I like slow it down and really watch myself. It's really weird. And that's also really weird to watch yourself that closely. I'm just saying. But anyway, it is The Color of Home. And I finally got, back into it. I was enjoying this book. But Emma M. Lyon ruined me for books for a while there. It was really weird. So I'm on chapter 23. I thought I might finish this tonight. But then I got caught up in something else and didn't. It has 56 chapters, so I'm halfway through. I'm almost halfway through. I can math. I surely can. So I'm suspecting it'll be done tomorrow. But finally, I'm having fun again. Like, phew. And seriously, heading back, well, I'll do that in a minute. And then I did start The Great Divorce while I was in that slump, and I'm having great fun with it, but even then I stopped picking it up. So now I can finish it. There's not very many chapters left. I'm on chapter 9. I'm almost halfway through. And I'm having fun with this. This feels very much like The Garden at the Edge of Beyond in a different way. Instead of in a garden, you're on a bus. But it does have that same feel, so that's pretty cool. And reading the introduction, I finally understand why it's called this. I think the one that sparked him to write this was called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And so this is The Great Divorce. Anyway. And then obviously I'm still reading The Island of Stars. Guys, this book is so good, and I'm so annoyed that I let myself get sidetracked from reading it. So picking that back up and loving it. And then last but not least, when I was in the house getting another journalable. I saw this up there. We've just started James at church. This is called the James Code. It's just kind of a little like devotionally kind of thing. But I was like, well, I can read, one every now and then. See if maybe something like clicks together with something JP says and whatever. So I am kind of flibbering through it, but not really, I'm just saying. But yeah, so that's what I've read. That's what's happened. And well, I did have an idea that I wanted to share. Something about the color poem made me think of something, and I have promptly forgotten it. And I can worry about that, or I can just say forget it. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to say forget it, because I can't remember, and I can sit here for a while and try to think about it, or I can just move along. But the gist of the matter is I almost let a book that there's nothing wrong with. It's not like Emma M. Lyon is a boring book. It's just not grabbing me either. It's not making me want to come back. And I wasted, I don't know, 10, 12 days, something like that, listening to other things. Things that I know really well because I wrote them just to avoid it. So, I know what I was going to say. So I'll bring it in now. I actually started to wonder if this little passport to summer reading was my problem. Not enough liquids is apparently his. I actually started to blame it on this. And it's so sad because it's not the thing at all. But I started, because at first I would not have imagined that listening to an audiobook that I don't necessarily want to read would stop me from reading physical books. But it did, because reasons. And I don't know what those reasons are. It just did. So, if you ever find yourself in a book slump, goodness, I just filled that water bowl when we came out here from the house. And I have just refilled it, and he is going to down every last bit of it. Welcome to the desert. I guess it must be getting warm in here. But anyway, if you ever get to this point where you're just avoiding everything. Okay. Anyway, if you ever get to the point where you're avoiding everything, how many times can I say that? Maybe it's not what you think. Try something else. Even if it's like something completely different and you feel really ridiculous, maybe you just move to something else and something else and something else until something clicks. Because as soon as I switched to silver, I wanted to read. And I was avoiding it like crazy until then. So, I'm just putting that out there. Cut all that out. So anyway, just maybe, whatever. So now I have lots of reading that I want to finish fast so that I can fill this thing in and get it done before September. I have 2 books to pick up on there. We have a lot to do, and not a lot of time to do it, so I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go in the house, make myself a cup of tea, and get myself a cranberry orange muffin that my son brought, and then I'll go edit. And I'll see you hopefully on Friday, much normal. One super cool thing, guys, I can't wait to share what I'm going to do for Vlogmas/Bookmas this year. Came up with something that I'm really super excited about. I have to start filming now, but that's okay. I'm so excited. I'm as excited as I was last year with the Dear Uncle Nick thing, except that it's something totally different. it's not that again. Although that book, hopefully the full-length novel, should come out on Black Friday, which I'm really excited about. But anyway, all that to say, I hope I'll be here Friday. I should be. I think I've fixed my problems. And if not, do I buy a new laptop and give that one to Lorna? Or do I just wipe it and start again? What are your thoughts? Inquiring minds want to know. And did you read anything that I need to know about? I know Ashley has something about Eve that she mentioned on her channel that I want to read now. Very curious about it. But yeah, what do you think? Books I need to know about? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 books over there that have come in. And fun thing is, I only bought 2. So that was fun. Carrie Trumbo sent one, and Angela Bell sent one, Barbara sent one, and Tyndale sent one. And I can't see what that other one is. I might have bought 3. I'll have to see what it is now. Now I'm not so sure if I know what I'm talking about. But I'll see you later. And yeah, gotta get the passport to summer reading done, because this matters to me. I'll see you Friday, I hope.